Alright, so last video I left off like a loser because of the pressure of time constraints, right? So let's open it again and let's revisit this one more time. And this time I'm going to relax and calm down and go for my intended result. So, as far as background goes, we're just going to just set that back to being black and looking at it. And, we need to deal with our animation, right? Because we try to have this like spotlight effect going. And, on a motion graphics level, that's just not going to work right. So we need this thing to happen. We got some things happening at the end. So let's place our empty in the center. Let's get rid of our keyframes for movement. Let's see what we have to play with here. So if we scale this, we get something like that. So our intro could be something like that. And then we just keep scaling it in until we're at 0. Just playing around, seeing what we're able to get here. Alright, testing out our power here. Let's put a color ramp in here just to see. Or is this thing constrained? No. Let's just keep going. We'll stop messing with things. Alright, and I was more confident before I started. So here's what we'll do. Same thing that I did before. I always deviate from what I rehearse. So look. That will do. Except we maybe want that to happen faster. So I'm going to go into the dissolve effect, and before seconds we're going to put a math and put a multiply of 2, and let's go back, and that should make this happen faster. Voila. So let's go in here. Maybe it's happening too fast, 1.5, but I'm glad I was right. So we bring it in by 55, and then let's say frame 50, we're bringing it in, and then we probably want to jump into being animated. Or actually, that was where we probably want to stop being animated. So let's set a keyframe for that. So we'll go to 49, press I, go to frame 50, uncheck it, press I. Let's just clear any keyframes that we have going on there, and we'll just deal with that manually. And we can just bring everything back down if we wanted, like so. And let's look at the empty scale. Alright, and now let's bring it back down, giving a stat as a result. And then we have to keep in mind that this scales into that later, and then does that, which that part looks good. We can work with that. I just didn't like what was going on with the beginning. So we're materializing the logo. And at this point, what would probably work also good for us is by frame 50, we actually scaled it inwards, right? So instead of letting it scale back out, we took this time to animate the scale. And still thinking on the fly here. So we'll go from frame 50, edit being 1, to frame 55 being 0. And let's see, did that feel jarring? Alright, so we have this moment where our animated option changes. So let's take a look at that. And we want this to happen when no one's going to notice. So I'm thinking that is at 55. is the perfect time. So we bring it in and change, and we're back. And now we're scaling it back out. We bring it back in. Actually, like what we're looking at here, we got something more random than last time. Alright, not even being lazy here. Let's take a look at this. It bounces out, scales in. Alright, so now for this part, what we want to do is when it gets to this part, we actually remove the width of the logo. So we'll press I, we'll move forward, and just reduce the width, set it to 0, and then we'll let it come out with nothing, land, set a keyframe for that, and then we can let it grow right back out again. So we'll press I. Let's take a look at that. So we take it away and then we put it back. And right here, we may also want to enable animated again. But I'm just thinking about how we want to do this. So and it's because we mess with animated that the animated that's going to come on whenever we enable this is going to be another story, right? So we got that. And let's test out at frame 200, enabling this at frame 101. And let's try setting this to 275. Maybe 250, you know, just your standard Blender frame range. So now we have it coming in, growing out, breaking apart a little bit, coming back together, reforming the logo. So a little spastic, but I'm thinking of multiple cuts in between different sections as well. So it's not entirely one sequence. I'm thinking of like multiple sequences at the same time, but I wanted to change it up a little bit based on all the components that we had to basically give us a more interesting result. So we also want to make it where when it grows back, it does a color change, because we can do a lot with the color on this. So we start out with this, and you know, is this the color that we want? We can kind of drift around and see what we have. You know, we go towards something, I think a little hotter, like so. And then whenever it explodes, we begin to change the color. We'll press I, jump over, and change it around. Let's see, what color do we want? Maybe really hot red. We'll press I again. And once it does that jump, we want it to jump its color again. We'll press I. Alright, and we don't want to be too spastic with our colors here. And really, we can also think about what color we want to jump between here and delete the keyframes for those that we don't like. And I think that will work for now. However, whenever it comes to geometry nodes, and especially this dang logo, all I can think of is additional possibilities for it. So let's press Alt V. Let's hit toggle bloom, and we've toggled it off. Let's toggle bloom back on. And this time we should have had an option here for us to adjust the amount of mix as well, so that way we can have it be a tighter bloom. I see that hasn't yet made it into hops yet, so I'll have to check into that. But yeah, we definitely want to be able to adjust the amount of bloom that's happening, so that way we can bring it down to something a little more reasonable. So now we look at our final result, and this is something I think looks a little bit better than where the last video left off. Debating. We probably could even have it flow a little bit more evenly. Like, I think in the initial one, I was playing with the trim too, so we see how at the beginning it's formulating like so. If we take a look at what we have here, we have this thing, so we can set this to 1, come back, reduce the number, set to something like 0, and just with the control that we have over trim, we can specify when this thing leaves and when it comes back. For example, right here, it gets slightly chaotic, unless you like it. Actually, I'm into it. It's like a multiversal wave, right? But we do want one sequence where it draws out. In fact, we'll have the logo draw out. Let's have it draw out, but we give it no width, right? So it's a empty logo, no width. And then by this point, it has a full logo brought in, meaning a full width. So we have something like that. Just making for a more interesting animation. And I still want this to be a little bit bigger. I know we're just jumping around the timeline like a schizo, but and also the logo is so small, so teeny tiny at the very end. Teeny tiny, like it's unimportant, when actually the logo is very important. Let's use a scale instances. I have to look at the previous what we use, and we'll put a value here. And just for that final frame, just so it's nice and beautiful, we'll scale this up when the time comes. And then it darkens out, and then it reforms. So by the final frame, we want something about 2.5 times bigger, but we don't want that happening prematurely. So let's set that to 1. Alright, I think for something impromptu and random, we were able to make it around. Let's press Alt V, we'll turn off bloom so we can just see it just as a raw result. Alright, I'm looking at this part where the inner tick is coming back right here. Right there. When this part comes back, I gotta come up with a name for it. The holy. We call that the holy. The inside of the hops logo. Hey, that's the holy. That's the precious right there. Alright, I think we are getting something that I'm pleased with, and we don't even have to let bloom hide everything for us. Alright, and let's turn bloom back on. And we are approaching the 15-minute mark. Not that we're trying to rush our results or anything, but we at least wanted to give this a final result. So with that, I can now finally wrap up this video and finally go to bed. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next video.